The Grand Chamber of Zenthar Prime had witnessed countless historic moments over 10,000 years. Today it would witness one more, though none present understood how different this one would be. Ambassador Kyle Stevens stood alone in the center of the massive hall. Above him, the 12 council members sat on elevated platforms looking down at the human representative. The architecture was designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. It worked on most species. Kyle simply stood straight and waited. The Zethian chancellor spoke first. His voice echoed through the chamber with practiced authority. "Human, we have observed your species for 2 centuries now. Your expansion across the stars concerns us greatly." Kyle said nothing. He had learned that silence often revealed more than questions. "You spread across worlds like a plague," continued the chancellor. 47 colonies in less than 200 years. You build weapons instead of art. You fortify instead of beautify. You are dangerous. We are survivors," Kyle replied calmly. "There is a difference." The Kretok representative, an ancient being whose species had mastered space travel before humans discovered fire, made a dismissive gesture. "You are children playing with tools you barely understand. Your technology is primitive. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are crude." Kyle felt a flicker of amusement but kept his face neutral. "Let them think what they want," he thought. "We have reached a decision," the chancellor announced. "Humanity will surrender all colonies beyond your home system. You will submit to council oversight. You will limit your fleet to no more than 50 vessels. You will accept our guidance as you mature as a species." The chamber fell silent. The council members watched Kyle, expecting shock, fear, or perhaps anger. Instead, the human ambassador smiled slightly. "No," he said simply. The word hung in the air like a physical thing. Several council members leaned forward in disbelief. "You refuse?" the chancellor asked, his voice rising. "You understand what you are saying? We represent 12 civilizations. We command fleets that number in the tens of thousands. We have maintained peace in this galaxy for millennia." "Peace built on submission," Kyle observed. "That's not peace. That's control." "It is order," the Kretok representative shouted, its translator crackling with emotion, "something your violent species knows nothing about." Kyle's smile faded. "You want to talk about violence? Let me tell you about humans. We've fought wars that killed millions. We've built weapons that could destroy our entire world. We've faced extinction and survived. We've looked into the darkness of our own nature and chosen to be better." He took a step forward. "But being better doesn't mean being weak. It means knowing exactly what we're capable of and choosing when to use it." The chancellor stood, his full height impressive even at this distance. "You dare threaten this council?" "I'm warning you," Kyle corrected. "There's a difference. You see us as primitive because our ships don't have shields. You think we're weak because we use kinetic weapons instead of plasma. You believe you understand us because you've watched from a distance." He spread his hands. "But you don't know us. You don't know what we've survived. You don't know what we've learned. And you definitely don't know what we've prepared for." "Enough!" the chancellor's voice boomed. "This council has spoken. You have 30 days to comply with our demands. If you refuse, we will enforce compliance. We will blockade your worlds. We will seize your colonies. We will teach you the price of defiance." Kyle shook his head slowly. "You're making a terrible mistake. The only mistake was allowing your species to expand unchecked for so long," the Kretok representative said coldly. "That error ends now. This council formally declares a state of war between our alliance and humanity. You have 30 days. The chamber erupted in clicking, humming, and various sounds of approval from the different species. They had voted. War was declared. It felt righteous to them, necessary even. Kyle looked around the chamber one last time. "I need you all to understand something. Humanity didn't want this. We came to the stars hoping to find friends, partners, maybe even teachers. Instead, we found you." He began walking toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. At the doorway, he turned back. "You've never lost a war in 10,000 years. That's not because you're invincible. It's because you've never fought anyone who really knew how to fight. You're about to learn the difference." The doors sealed behind him with a heavy thud. The council members looked at each other with amusement and satisfaction. The human's words were clearly the desperate bluff of a species facing inevitable defeat. "How many warships does Earth have?" one council member asked. "Our intelligence suggests no more than 300, another responded. "Primitive vessels with minimal defensive capabilities." "And we have 20,000. the Chancellor said with satisfaction. This will be resolved quickly. Perhaps we will be merciful when they beg for terms. They did not know that Kyle Stevens was already on his ship, transmitting a single coded message back to Earth. The message was brief. Condition read. They declared war. Execute Protocol Reaper. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Garrett received the message in the war room deep beneath the military headquarters. She looked at the faces around the table. Generals, scientists, intelligence officers. They had spent 200 years preparing for this exact moment. Send the recall order, she said quietly. Bring every ship home. Activate all reserves. Begin Phase 1 of the contingency plan. Admiral, one of her officers asked, do they really not know? Lisa shook her head. They think our lack of shield technology makes us weak. They think kinetic weapons are primitive. They've studied us but never understood us. She pulled up a holographic display, showing the Council's fleet positions. They've fought wars where ships line up and exchange fire until someone's shields fail. They follow rules. They have honor codes. They've forgotten what real war looks like. She expanded the display to show Earth's actual military assets. Not 300 ships, but 800. With half of them hidden in deep space, powered down and undetectable. Not primitive kinetic weapons, but rail guns that could punch through any shield ever designed. Not weakness, but 2 centuries of preparation. They declared war thinking they're teaching children a lesson. Lisa continued. They're about to learn that humanity's greatest teacher has always been war itself. And we're very good students. Captain Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiant reading the recall order. His crew looked at him with mixed expressions. Fear, excitement, determination. You heard the order, Jack said calmly. Plot a course for Earth, maximum speed. Battle stations. This is what we trained for. As the Defiant's engines flared to life, beginning its journey back to Sol, Jack looked at the stars and thought about the Council's arrogance. They had no idea what they had started. In 30 days they would begin to understand. But by then it would be far too late. The Kepler colony had been humanity's pride for 15 years. 7,000 people called the verdant world home, farming the rich soil and mining rare minerals from the mountains. Today, they watched their sky with growing fear as 3 massive ships descended through the atmosphere. The Council warships were beautiful in their own way. Sleek, elegant vessels that seemed to glide rather than fly. Their hulls shimmered with energy shields and their weapons arrays glowed with barely contained power. They had come to claim this world, expecting no resistance. Captain Jack Morrison watched them approach on his tactical display. The Defiant was the only military ship in the system, and it looked nothing like the Council vessels. Where they were smooth and graceful, the Defiant was blocky and brutal. Its hull was layered armor, scarred from testing and exercises. It bristled with weapons, all of them designed for one purpose, to hurt the enemy badly. 3 against 1, Commander Beth Turner observed from the tactical station. Those aren't good odds. No, Jack agreed. They're terrible odds. For them, the communication channel crackled to life. A Zethian commander appeared on the screen, his expression smug with confidence. Human vessel. This system now belongs to the Council. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your colonists will be relocated. Resistance is futile. Jack leaned back in his chair. I've got a counter-offer. Turn around and leave. Right now. This is your only warning. The Zethian commander laughed. You face 3 warships with 1 primitive vessel. You have no shields. Your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. Surrender or be destroyed. Okay, Jack said calmly. We tried. He cut the transmission and looked at Beth. Let's show them what primitive means. Target the lead ship. Full spread? The Council ships opened fire first. Plasma bolts screamed across space, enough energy to vaporize most vessels. The Defiant's hull lit up as the impacts hit, the armor superheating and glowing orange. Inside the ship, the crew felt the vibrations, but nothing more. The armor held. It was designed to withstand nuclear detonations. Plasma was uncomfortable but manageable. Our turn, Jack said. Fire! The Defiant's railguns spoke with thunder. Tungsten rods, each weighing several tons, accelerated to 5% of light speed. They crossed the distance in seconds. The Council shields flared bright as they detected the incoming fire. Energy fields designed to deflect plasma and lasers activated at full power. The tungsten rods passed through them like they weren't even there. Physics didn't care about energy shields. A physical object moving at relativistic speeds carried kinetic energy that no field could stop. The first rod punched through the lead ship's hull, through its internal compartments and out the other side. Atmosphere vented into space. The second rod hit the engineering section. The ship didn't explode. It simply died, tumbling lifelessly through space. What just happened? The Zethian commander of the second ship screamed into his comm. Our shields didn't even slow them down. That's because shields don't work on solid matter, Beth explained cheerfully, though the council couldn't hear her. They only studied energy weapons. We studied everything. Lieutenant Ryan Clark launched from the Defiance fighter bay with his squadron, 12 small craft, each carrying a payload that made council scanners confused. The sensors identified them as primitive chemical rockets. The council point defenses didn't even bother targeting them. That was a mistake. Ryan's fighter screamed toward the second council ship at full burn. Fox 2, Fox 2, he called out, launching his missiles. They weren't chemical rockets. They were nuclear weapons, each one a 5-megaton warhead. The council ship's shields could handle the heat and radiation of a nuclear blast. What they couldn't handle was the electromagnetic pulse and the shock wave of superheated gas. The shields flickered and failed. The ship's electronics went dark. Target disabled, Ryan reported, moving to attack the third ship. But the third council ship's commander had seen enough. His shields were useless. His weapons couldn't penetrate the human ship's armor. His sensors couldn't properly track the human fighters. Everything his training had taught him was wrong. He ran. Let him go, Jack ordered as Beth prepared to fire. We want him to report what happened here. Fear is a weapon too. The damaged council ship limped into hyperspace, its commander already broadcasting desperate warnings to the main fleet. The second ship, dead in space, was boarded by human marines. The crew surrendered immediately. On the bridge of the Defiant, the crew allowed themselves a moment of celebration. They had won the first battle. But everyone knew it was just the beginning. Admiral Lisa Garrett stood in the command center on Earth, watching reports flow in from across human space. The Council had sent scout forces to 12 colonies. Every single one had been repulsed. The Council was learning that their intelligence had been very, very wrong. They thought we had 300 ships, she told her staff. We actually have 800. They thought our technology was primitive. It's just different. They thought we didn't have shields because we couldn't make them. She pulled up a holographic display. We didn't build shields because we ran the simulations. In ship-to-ship combat, heavy armor and bigger guns beat shields every time. Shields have to cover the entire ship. Armor only protects what matters. Shields drain power. Armor is passive. We chose the better option. Dr. Sophie Martinez, the chief scientist, added her analysis. We've been studying their technology from every probe and scout ship we've captured over the years. We know exactly how their shields work, what frequencies they use, what their limitations are. They know almost nothing about us. Because we let them think we were primitive, Lisa said. We let them underestimate us. And now they're paying the price. Director Amy Collins from Intelligence entered the room. The Council is in emergency session. They're shocked by the losses. They're committing 40% of their fleet, about 8,000 ships. 8,000, Lisa repeated. Against our 800. They still think numbers will win this, won't they? A young officer asked nervously. Lisa smiled. Not if we fight smart. Jack Morrison just proved that 3 of their ships can't beat one of ours. But we're not going to fight fair anyway. Prepare Operation Hornet. It's time to teach them about swarm tactics. The Council's main fleet assembled near Tau Ceti. 8,000 warships. The largest military force ever gathered in known space. Their commanders were confident again. Yes, the initial scouts had been defeated, but that was just bad luck and surprise. With proper numbers and preparation, humanity would be crushed. Admiral Greg Holland commanded the 2nd Defense Fleet, hidden in the outer system. He watched the Council fleet organize itself in neat formations, perfect geometric patterns that looked impressive and made tactical sense for their style of warfare. They fight like they're on parade, he muttered. Beautiful formations, clear command structure, everyone in their proper place. His tactical officer grinned. And we fight like angry hornets. Exactly. Send the signal. Execute Operation Hornet. What the Council fleet saw next would haunt their military strategists for generations. The human capital ships, fewer than 100 of them, suddenly bloomed like deadly flowers. Each ship released hundreds of smaller craft. Fighters, drones, missiles, mines, autonomous weapons platforms. In seconds, the space around the human fleet filled with thousands of individual threats, each one small, fast, and carrying enough firepower to hurt a capital ship. The Council's large warships were designed for ship-to-ship combat. Their weapons were powerful but slow to track. Their shields protected against big hits but struggled with many small ones. Their tactics assumed orderly battle lines and clear targets. They got chaos instead. Captain Nina Hayes commanded the carrier Indomitable. Her ship alone released 500 fighters and 2,000 drones. All wings weapons free. Target their engine blocks and communication arrays. Make them blind and slow. The fighters swarmed like insects, too many for the Council's targeting systems to track. Drones rammed into shield generators, overloading them with sustained impacts. Missiles split into cluster munitions, overwhelming point defenses. In the first 10 minutes, the Council lost 300 ships. Their commander tried to reorganize, to create a defensive formation. But the human fleet didn't cooperate. They didn't line up for honorable combat. They hit from multiple directions, retreated when pressed, and used the debris field of destroyed ships as cover. Lieutenant Commander Eric Zhang unveiled his latest creation. Space mines that looked like debris until a ship got close, then activated and detonated. The Council fleet, trying to regroup, sailed right into the field. Explosions rippled through their formation. "This isn't warfare," the Council fleet commander shouted in frustration. "This is butchery. This is dishonorable." But there was no one to complain to. The humans didn't care about honor. They cared about winning. By the time Admiral Lisa Garrett's main fleet arrived, the Council forces were already breaking. Some ships fought bravely but uselessly. Others tried to run but were chased down by fighters. The beautiful fleet that had assembled so confidently was now wreckage and fleeing survivors. Lisa let them run. "Make sure some escape," she ordered. "We want the Council to know what happened here. We want them to be afraid." The Council war room on Zenthar Prime was in chaos. Reports flooded in from across their territory. Humanity wasn't defending. They were attacking. "They hit 3 of our colonies simultaneously," the Kreetok military commander reported, his ancient voice cracking with stress. "They appeared without warning, destroyed our orbital defenses, and left before reinforcements arrived." The Zethian chancellor slammed his hand on the table. "How is this possible? They should be protecting their own worlds, not attacking ours. Where is their homeworld fleet?" "Unknown," the intelligence officer admitted. "We cannot locate the majority of their ships. They appear, strike, and vanish. Our sensors cannot track them when they power down their systems." What the Council didn't understand was human stealth technology. Their ships used active sensors constantly, always broadcasting. Human ships could run silent, drifting in space like dead rocks, then light up their engines and attack before the enemy knew they were there. Captain Claire Nelson commanded the Shadow, humanity's first dedicated stealth ship. It was small, heavily armored, and covered in materials that absorbed sensor scans. Right now it floated in orbit around the Council's largest shipyard completely undetected. "Mark the targets," Claire whispered, though there was no need to be quiet in space. Her crew identified the 3 massive construction facilities where Council warships were built. "Targets marked," her weapons officer confirmed. "Ready on your order." Fire. The Shadow's missiles launched in silence. They were simple devices, really. Chemical rockets with nuclear warheads. Old technology that the Council's sensors classified as debris or meteors. By the time the shipyard defenses realized they were under attack, the missiles were seconds from impact. The nuclear detonations lit up the night sky of the planet below. The shipyards, which had built warships for 3,000 years, became expanding clouds of radioactive gas. "Jump now," Claire ordered. The Shadow's hyperspace drive engaged, and they were gone before the Council ships could even scan for them. Across Council space, similar scenes played out. Major Dan Murphy led a team of Special Forces operatives who had infiltrated a supply depot. They didn't even use fancy weapons. Simple explosives, placed carefully over 3 days, went off all at once. Food, ammunition, and fuel for 2,000 ships went up in flames. Commander Luke Davidson ran the intelligence network that made all of this possible. He recruited aliens who were tired of Council control, bought information from merchants, and planted false data in Council systems. He made sure that when the Council thought they knew where human ships were, they were actually somewhere else entirely. "Admiral," Luke reported to Lisa Garrett via encrypted channel. The Council is pulling ships from the front lines to defend their homeworlds. They're panicking. Lisa allowed herself a small smile. Good, that's exactly what we want. How are they distributing their forces? Spreading them thin, Luke replied. They're trying to protect everything, which means they're protecting nothing effectively. This was the genius of Fleet Admiral Kate Morgan's strategy. She commanded the overall human military effort and understood something the Council didn't. In war, you can't defend everywhere. You have to choose. The Council was trying to protect all 12 member worlds, dozens of colonies, hundreds of supply lines, and their shipyards. Humanity forced them to scatter their forces. Meanwhile, the human fleet concentrated for a single massive strike. All ships report ready. Admiral Lisa told Kate during their command briefing. We have 500 vessels assembled and ready to jump. Kate studied the tactical map. The Council has 800 ships defending Zenthar Prime. They think those numbers are enough. Are they? Lisa asked. Kate shook her head. Not against us. Not anymore. They still don't understand how we fight. Execute the jump. It's time to end this. The hyperspace jump was coordinated down to the second. 500 human warships appeared in the Zenthar system simultaneously, their arrival perfectly timed to catch the Council defense fleet out of position. The Council commander had his ships in defensive orbits around the planet. Beautiful, symmetric patterns that looked good and followed all the rules of proper fleet deployment. Against an enemy who followed the same rules, it would have been effective. Humanity didn't follow rules. The human fleet came out of hyperspace already firing. Railguns spoke first, the tungsten rods crossing the distance before the Council ships could even bring their shields to full power. 3 ships died in the first 5 seconds. All wings launch, Captain Nina Hayes ordered from the Indomitable. Her carrier released its full complement of fighters and drones. Other carriers did the same. Thousands of small craft filled the space between the fleets. The Council tried to form up to create a defensive line, but Jack Morrison's Defiant led a squadron of heavy cruisers right through their formation, scattering them like bowling pins. Human ships could take hits. They were designed for it. They crashed through the Council's lines, absorbing fire and dealing it back tenfold. Target their command ship, Beth Turner called out from tactical. That's the big one in the center. The Defiant's weapons locked on. Railguns, missiles, and laser point defenses all fired at once. The Council command ship's shields held for almost 3 seconds before failing. The ship tried to run, but Lieutenant Ryan Clark's fighter squadron was waiting. Missiles away, Ryan called out calmly. Nuclear weapons streaked toward the fleeing command ship. It died in a flash of light that could be seen from the planet below. The battle raged for 3 days. The Council ships fought bravely. They were experienced crews and good ships, but they were fighting an enemy they didn't understand, using tactics they had never encountered. Human ships used electronic warfare to jam their communications. Drones overwhelmed their targeting systems. Fighters attacked their weak points with surgical precision. And when Council ships tried to engage in traditional ship-to-ship combat, the heavy human cruisers simply slugged it out with superior armor and bigger guns. On the 3rd day, the Council defense fleet broke. Half their ships were destroyed. The rest retreated to the surface, hiding in the planet's gravity well and under its shields. Admiral Lisa brought the human fleet into orbital positions around Zenthar Prime. The planet below was beautiful, she had to admit. Elegant cities, vast parks, ancient monuments. It had never been touched by war. She opened a channel to the Council chambers. This is Admiral Lisa Garrett of Earth. I am calling for your immediate surrender. The Zathian Chancellor appeared on screen. He looked old suddenly, tired and defeated. You would not dare attack this world. It would be genocide. Your species claims to be civilized. We are civilized, Lisa agreed. That's why I'm offering you a chance to surrender before we demonstrate our capabilities. You will order all your remaining ships to stand down. You will cease all military operations. You will agree to negotiate a peace treaty. And if we refuse? The Chancellor asked, though his voice lacked conviction. Lisa's expression hardened. Then I will show you what happens when you force a war on humanity. We didn't want this. You declared war on us. You threatened our families, our homes, our future. We gave you every chance to avoid this. She gestured to her tactical officer. Fire a demonstration shot. 1 railgun sustained fire, target the northern wasteland. No population centers. The Defiant's main railgun began firing. Round after round of tungsten accelerated to relativistic speeds and hammered into the planet's surface. The shields flared bright, holding back the assault. For a minute, they held. For 2 minutes. For 3. Then they failed. The kinetic bombardment continued for another 30 seconds. When it stopped, there was a crater on Xanthar Prime visible from orbit, 30 kilometers wide and still glowing from the heat of impact. That was a wasteland, Lisa said calmly. No one lived there. The next demonstration will be on a military target. The one after that, we start choosing other targets. You have 1 hour to decide. The channel closed. On the planet below, the council members stared at each other in horror. They had thought their planetary shields were invincible. They had been wrong, but before the hour was up, something else happened. The Zethian chancellor, desperate and terrified, made a decision that would change everything. He ordered the activation of an ancient weapon system, something the council had built millennia ago but never used. A device that could crack a planet's crust and destroy all life on it. He planned to use it on Earth. Commander Luke Davidson's intelligence network caught the activation sequence. His agents, embedded deep in council systems, saw the power readings spike at a secret facility on Xanthar Prime's smallest moon. Admiral, Luke's transmission came through with maximum priority. They're activating a planet killer. Target is Earth. Estimated time to firing, 6 hours. Kate Morgan received the message and felt her blood run cold. A planet killer, aimed at humanity's home. Every human in space had family on Earth, friends, history. It was everything they were fighting to protect. Can we stop it? She asked. Major Murphy is already moving, Luke replied. But we don't know if he'll get there in time. Major Dan Murphy and his team had been on Xanthar Prime's moon for 2 days, hiding in the shadows and waiting for their moment. When the facility came alive with activity, they knew it was time. The message came through on all frequencies simultaneously. It was brief, formal, and marked the end of an era that had lasted 10,000 years. The Galactic Council requests immediate ceasefire negotiations with the human government. We acknowledge the current military situation and seek peaceful resolution. We await your response. Admiral Lisa Garrett read the message 3 times before believing it. Around her, the command center had gone completely silent. Officers stared at their screens, at each other, at her. Everyone waiting to see what would happen next. They're surrendering, someone whispered. Not yet, Lisa corrected. They're asking to negotiate. That's different. She opened a channel to Fleet Admiral Kate Morgan. Did you get the message? I did, Kate replied. Her face on the screen showed the same cautious hope Lisa felt. What do you think? I think we won, Lisa said simply. Now we have to make sure the peace lasts, Kate nodded. I'm ordering all fleets to cease offensive operations but maintain defensive positions. We don't lower our guard until we have a signed treaty. Contact Ambassador Kyle. It's time to bring him back in. Kyle Stevens had spent the war on a human ship near the front lines, advising commanders on council culture and helping interpret intercepted communications. When the summons came, he felt a mix of emotions. Relief that the fighting might end, satisfaction that his warnings had been proven right, and sadness for all the lives lost because the council hadn't listened. They want to negotiate, Lisa told him when he arrived at the command ship. We need you there to make sure they understand our terms. What are our terms? Kyle asked. Kate pulled up a document that had been prepared weeks ago. Complete recognition of human sovereignty, withdrawal of all council forces from disputed space, reparations for damages to our colonies, demilitarization of the Council Alliance, and reformation of the Council into a diplomatic body with no military authority. Kyle whistled softly. Those are harsh terms. They declared war on us, Lisa reminded him. They tried to destroy Earth. They thought they could bully us into submission. These terms ensure they never try again. Will they accept? Kyle wondered. Kate's expression was cold. They don't have a choice. They've lost 15,000 ships. Their economy is collapsing. Their people are demanding peace. If they don't accept our terms, we'll dictate worse ones from the ashes of their worlds. 3 days later, Kyle found himself back in the Grand Chamber on Xanthar Prime. But everything was different now. The 12 council members looked diminished somehow. Their platforms didn't seem as high. Their voices didn't carry the same authority, and Kyle wasn't alone. Admiral Lisa Garrett stood beside him in her dress uniform, medals gleaming. Behind them stood an honor guard of human Marines. Above them, Visible through the chamber's transparent ceiling, the human fleet maintained orbit. The Kretok representative spoke first. The ancient being looked every one of its centuries now. Ambassador Stevens, Admiral, we are prepared to discuss terms. There's nothing to discuss, Lisa said bluntly. We're here to present our requirements. You can accept them or reject them. If you reject them, the war continues. And we both know how that ends. The bluntness shocked the Council. They were used to diplomatic language, careful phrasing, hours of negotiation over every word. But humanity had fought too hard and lost too much for diplomacy now. Kyle handed them the treaty document. Read it. You have 24 hours to respond. The chamber erupted in protests. 24 hours? Impossible. We need time to consult our governments, our people. You had 200 years to talk to us peacefully, Lisa said. You chose war instead. 24 hours. The council members read in silence. With each paragraph, their expressions grew more dismayed. Complete sovereignty for humanity. Withdrawal from all disputed territories. Reparations of resources and materials. The dissolution of the Council Military Alliance. Limits on future military forces. Inspection rights for humanity to ensure compliance. This is unconditional surrender, the Zethian representative said quietly. The Chancellor himself was gone, arrested for trying to use the planet killer. Yes, Kyle confirmed. That's exactly what it is. You lost. These are the consequences. Some of our members will never accept this, the Kretok representative warned. They will fight on. Lisa's response was immediate and cold. Then they will die. We've spent the last 3 months studying your military capabilities, your infrastructure, your economies. We know exactly how to hurt each of your species. We know which worlds are critical, which supply lines matter, which facilities cannot be replaced. She pulled up a holographic display showing council space. Red markers indicated targets. There were hundreds of them. If any council member refuses the treaty, we will systematically destroy their ability to make war. We will blockade their worlds. We will seize their resources. We will make examples of them so brutal that no one will ever threaten humanity again. The chamber fell silent. They had seen what humanity could do when angry. No one wanted to see what they would do if truly ruthless. There is one thing we want to know, the Kretok representative said finally. How did you do it? We are ancient civilizations. We have technology refined over millennia. Our fleets were vast. How did a species barely 200 years in space defeat us so completely? Kyle looked at Lisa, who nodded for him to answer. He thought carefully about how to explain. You've been at peace for 10,000 years, Kyle began. That sounds wonderful, and in many ways it is. But it made you soft. You forgot what real war looks like. You forgot that war isn't about honor or formations or following rules. It's about destroying your enemy's ability and will to fight. He walked to the center of the chamber, the same spot where he had stood when they declared war. Humanity has never known peace like yours. We've fought wars that killed tens of millions. We've built weapons that could end all life on our world. We've looked into the abyss and it looked back at us. We learned from all of that, Lisa added. Every war we ever fought taught us lessons. We studied tactics from thousands of years of human conflict. We understood that technology alone doesn't win wars. Strategy, tactics, morale, logistics, intelligence, all of these matter just as much. But most importantly, Kyle continued, we prepared. For 200 years, we knew we weren't alone in the universe. We found evidence of your existence early on. And we asked ourselves, what if they're hostile? What if they attack us? So we prepared. Every ship we built was designed for war. Every colony had defenses. Every soldier trained for this day. You thought we were primitive because we didn't have shields, Lisa said. But we didn't have shields because we chose not to. We ran the simulations. Heavy armor and kinetic weapons beat shields in most scenarios. So that's what we built. You thought our weapons were crude, Kyle added. But railguns are simple, reliable, and devastating. Nuclear weapons are old technology, but they work. We didn't need fancy plasma weapons when simple physics could do the job better. The Kretok representative looked genuinely curious now. But the tactics. The swarm attacks, the electronic warfare, the stealth strikes. Where did you learn these? From fighting ourselves, Lisa replied. Humanity has fought hundreds of major wars. We've tried every tactic imaginable. We know what works and what doesn't. We've studied guerrilla warfare, naval combat, air superiority, combined arms operations. We took lessons from thousands of years of conflict and applied them to space. You fought like we expected enemies to fight, Kyle explained. Organized, honorable, following conventions. We fought like humanity has always fought, to win. We used every advantage. We hit you where you were weak. We avoided where you were strong. We made you react to us instead of executing your plans. And the intelligence network? The Kretok representative asked. You seem to know our plans before we executed them. Lisa smiled slightly. Commander Luke Davidson built a network of informants across your space. Some were aliens tired of council control. Some were merchants who preferred human credits. Some were just people who believed the council was wrong. We gathered information, planted false data, and made sure you were always reacting to us. But perhaps the most important factor, Kyle said, was that we were united. Every human from Earth to the furthest colony knew what we were fighting for. Our freedom, our right to exist without submission. You were fighting to maintain control. We were fighting for survival. That makes all the difference. The council members absorbed this in silence. Finally, the Kretok representative spoke. You have taught us a harsh lesson, one we should have learned without war. Yes, Kyle agreed. You should have. We came to the stars hoping to find friends. We would have gladly joined a true alliance of equals. Instead, you treated us like children to be controlled. That was your mistake. The 24 hours passed slowly. The council members met in emergency sessions. They consulted their governments. They ran the calculations again and again, hoping to find some alternative. But the math was clear. Humanity had won decisively. When they reconvened, the Kretok representative spoke for all of them. We accept your terms. The council agrees to all conditions outlined in the treaty. We ask only for time to withdraw our forces in an orderly manner and to prepare our peoples for this new reality. 5 years after the war ended, the galaxy looked very different. The memorial stood on a hill overlooking the valley where the first human colony outside Sol system had been established. It was simple in design, just black stone carved with names. 2,847 names. Every human who had died in the war. Admiral Lisa Garrett stood before it in civilian clothes, her military career behind her now. She ran her fingers over the names, remembering faces, voices, sacrifices. Some had been her friends. All had been her responsibility. You still come here, a voice said behind her. Lisa turned to see Ambassador Kyle Stevens walking up the path. He looked older too, though more content than he had during the war years. Every year, she confirmed. I owe them that much. Kyle stood beside her, reading the names. They wouldn't blame you, you know. They knew what they signed up for. That doesn't make it easier, Lisa replied. She gestured to the valley below, where a thriving city of 50,000 humans and aliens lived and worked together. But at least we made sure their sacrifice meant something. The galaxy had indeed changed. The Treaty of Zenthar had held, though not without difficulties. The council races had struggled with their new reality. For 10,000 years they had been the dominant power. Accepting humanity's rise had been painful, but they had adapted. The new Galactic Council met in a different building now, one designed without the imposing platforms and intimidating architecture. The meeting hall was circular, with all representatives sitting at the same level. Humanity held one of 13 seats, equal partners in a true alliance. Today, the council was addressing trade disputes between human colonies and Zethian mining operations. The discussion was heated but civil. No threats. No ultimatums. Just negotiation. Ambassador Kyle represented humanity now permanently. He watched the debate with satisfaction. This was what he had hoped for years ago before the war. Equals working together to solve problems. The chair recognizes Representative Stevens, the council leader announced. Kyle stood. Thank you. I've reviewed both positions and I believe there's a compromise that benefits everyone. He outlined his proposal, drawing on both human and alien perspectives. The council listened, debated, and eventually voted to accept a modified version. After the session, the Kretok representative approached him. You have become quite skilled at council politics, Ambassador. Kyle smiled. I had good teachers, even if the lessons were painful. Indeed, the ancient being agreed. Tell me truthfully, do you think your people have forgiven us for the war? Kyle considered the question carefully. Some have. Some never will. But most understand that it wasn't personal. You made a mistake based on fear and arrogance. You paid for it. Now we move forward. Your species is remarkable, the Kretok said. You defeated us completely, yet you chose mercy. You could have destroyed us, but instead offered partnership. Why? Because destroying you would have made us into what you feared we were, Kyle replied. We're not conquerors. We're explorers. We wanted to find our place in the galaxy, not rule it. The conversation was interrupted by Captain Jack Morrison, who had been attending the session as a military advisor. Ambassador, you're going to be late for the ceremony. Kyle checked his timepiece and swore softly. You're right. Will you excuse me? The ceremony was being held at the Human Military Academy on Earth. It was graduation day for the first class of Joint Council human officers. 50 cadets from various species had trained together for 3 years, learning from both human and alien instructors. Fleet Admiral Kate Morgan gave the keynote address. When the war ended, we faced a choice. We could remain separate, nursing our grievances and preparing for the next conflict, or we could build something new together. She gestured to the graduating cadets. You represent that choice. You're not human officers or council officers. You're the first generation of galactic officers. You've learned tactics from both traditions. You understand different perspectives. And most importantly, you know that former enemies can become friends. Lieutenant Ryan Clark stood among the instructors, feeling odd about teaching alien pilots, but he had to admit some of them were good. Really good. They brought different perspectives to combat flying, seeing solutions he never would have considered. After the ceremony, one of his students approached. She was Zethian, young by their standards, and had finished top of her class. Thank you, Instructor Clark. Your lessons were invaluable. Ryan felt awkward. 5 years ago, he had been dropping nuclear weapons on Zethian ships. Now he was teaching Zethians how to fly. You earned it. You're a natural pilot. I hope to never use these skills in war, she said seriously. But if I must, I will fight to protect the peace we have built. That's the right answer, Ryan replied. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Dr. Sophie Martinez led a research team of human and alien scientists studying new technologies. They combined human innovation with alien knowledge, creating advances neither could have achieved alone. Captain Nina Hayes commanded a joint peacekeeping force, with human ships flying alongside former council vessels. They patrolled the borders, responded to emergencies, and generally kept the peace. Her crew was mixed now, humans and aliens working side by side. Commander Beth Turner had retired from military service to teach at a university on one of the council worlds. She lectured on the war, analyzing battles from both perspectives. Her most popular course was titled, How to Avoid the Mistakes We Made. Major Dan Murphy ran a Special Forces training program that shared human tactics with council militaries. Not to prepare for war against each other, but to create a common defense force, capable of protecting everyone from external threats. Not everything was perfect. There were incidents. Some humans couldn't forgive the council for starting the war. Some council races resented humanity's dominant position. Trade disputes sometimes got heated. Cultural misunderstandings caused friction. But there was no more war. Commander Luke Davidson, now director of the Joint Intelligence Service, monitored threats to the peace. His network, which had once undermined the council, now protected all member races. When extremist groups tried to restart conflicts, his team stopped them. It's harder than war in some ways, he told Director Amy Collins, who still ran human intelligence. During the war, we knew who the enemy was. Now we have to watch everyone, including ourselves. But worth it, Amy replied. Look at what we've built, she was right. In 5 years, trade between human and council worlds had increased 500%. Joint colonies were being established. Cultural exchanges were common. Young humans studied on alien worlds, and alien children attended human schools. The galaxy was learning to live together. On the 5th anniversary of the war's end, a grand ceremony was held on Zenthar Prime. Representatives from all 13 council races attended, along with thousands of civilians from across the galaxy. Ambassador Kyle stood before the crowd, speaking into a microphone that broadcast across hundreds of worlds. 5 years ago, this system witnessed the final battle of a war that should never have happened. Today we gather to remember the fallen and celebrate the peace they made possible. Behind him, a monument was unveiled. It showed figures from all the council races and humanity standing together. The inscription read in multiple languages. From the ashes of war, we built a lasting peace. May we never forget the cost or the lesson. Admiral Lisa Garrett was there, standing with other veterans from both sides. She found herself next to a Zethian admiral who had commanded one of the fleets she had fought against. "I lost many good people in that war," the Zethian said quietly. "So did I," Lisa replied. They stood in silence for a moment, two old warriors remembering the dead. Then the Zethian extended a hand. "To the future, then. May we never need to fight again." Lisa took the offered hand. To the future. Later, at a private gathering, the key figures from the war came together. Kyle, Lisa, Kate, Jack, and others from humanity. Representatives from the council races who had fought against them. They ate together, sharing stories and memories. "Do you think it will last?" someone asked. "The peace, I mean." Kate considered the question. "Nothing lasts forever. But we've built something strong. We've shown that former enemies can work together. We've created institutions and relationships that benefit everyone. Will there be conflicts? Yes. Will there be disagreements? Absolutely. But another war like the last one? I don't think so." Everyone remembers how that ended. Jack raised his glass. "To the council for teaching us that we weren't alone, and for learning, eventually, that we weren't inferior." "To humanity," the Kretok representative responded. "For teaching us that young doesn't mean weak, and different doesn't mean wrong." The toast was drunk by all. As the evening ended and people departed, Kyle found himself alone with Lisa on a balcony overlooking the city. The planet that had almost been destroyed was now a symbol of cooperation. Human and alien architecture blended in the skyline. Ships from a dozen races moved through the sky. "Was it worth it?" Lisa asked quietly. "All the death, all the destruction. Was this worth that price?" Kyle thought about the question for a long time before answering. The war shouldn't have happened. The council should have listened. We should have found a diplomatic solution. But asking if the peace we built